Hi guys, we're just gonna wait for a few more people to come in. All right, so we're live on YouTube as well.
All right.
Yeah, hi everybody. Feel free to drop in the chat where you're watching from. We're just gonna wait another minute as a few more people come in. See. Alrighty. Okay, so we have Caleb coming in from Nigeria. See. It's great to have you. Let's see. All right. Okay, Joy coming in from Nigeria as well. All right, so we can kick the session off. Welcome, guys. It's great to have you all. I'm very excited to have this workshop done by one of our alchemists, Oshioke. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, you pronounced it right.
Okay, perfect. So if you're an alchemist, you know what to do if you take a screenshot of what part you really enjoyed from this workshop and also tweet it and tag the Alchemist HQ handle and use the hashtag covalent alchemist and specifically write what you learned, then you'll qualify for some extra coval or XP. But if not, if you're not an alchemist, totally fine. Welcome to the session. We've been doing a lot of these workshops by different types of alchemists with different backgrounds that just want to share and give back to the community. But I will let Oshioki take it from here. Would you please be able to just give a brief intro to yourself and what people can expect to learn for this workshop?
Okay. Hey guys, my name is Ushuke and I'm from Nigeria. So I'm a front-end developer and a Web3 developer. So a brief intro on my journey. I started developing in 2022. That's when I started going into web development. I started with HTML, CSS. Then I think the next year I just started going into React development. So I've been doing that for quite a while. Then until last year, August, I started going into Web3 development where I learned about Solidity. Then recently I started building on top StackNet, which is a layer two solution on top Ethereum. So yeah, so that's a really brief intro about myself. So I'm a 22-year-old front-end developer and Web3 developer. So that's basically the intro. So in this workshop, we're going to be talking about reacting to Brilliance, unleashing front-end magic with Covalent Gold Rush Kit workshop. So in this workshop, we're going to be talking about React.js and how we can build front-end applications using Covalent tools such as the Gold Rush Kit and the Unified API. I believe this workshop is very important because it's going to be teaching us about because in order to use covalence tools, we need an interface where users can interact with what we are making with covalence tools, and those interfaces can be built with front end can be built with front end frameworks. And the framework we're going to be considering today is React.js, which is a very popular React JavaScript framework that has a very huge ecosystem and is very easy to use and learn. So that's what we're expecting from today's workshop. And this workshop is going to be a hands-on workshop where I won't really do much of the talking. It's going to be a brief talk. Then we're going to go deep into practicals. So that's what we can expect from this workshop this morning. Thanks to everyone that is just joining. I promise that this workshop is going to be a fun-filled one, and you're definitely going to learn something from it. So yeah. So Jackie, anything else?
No, that's all. Just pretty
Yeah.
excited to also mention that it's going to be a live coding session. So I hope our attendees are prepared.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
All right. So for this presentation, we're going to be first talking about JavaScript frameworks. Then we talk about an introduction to React.js. Then we'll go into the coding session. So what is a framework? From the beginning, I said that React is a JavaScript framework. Well, a JavaScript framework is a pre-written collection of code libraries, tools, and conventions that provide a structured foundation for developing web applications. It offers a set of reusable functionalities and components to streamline the development process and common problems encountered in web development. So normally, for those that are doing into web development, they are familiar with JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript. So vanilla JavaScript is a bit tedious to write because it's what's what it's more of a, how do I put it? Basically, what frameworks do is that they provide a simpler way for you to write web applications. It takes a declarative approach compared to vanilla JavaScript. That's why most web applications or single page applications are built with JavaScript frameworks. So why do JavaScript frameworks exist? Number one, keeping the user interface in sync with data is really hard and a lot of work, especially when you're coding with vanilla JavaScript. Front-end frameworks solve this problem and take away the hard work from developers, making it way easier for you to manage your state and UI at the same time. The second one is that they enforce a correct way of structuring and writing code, therefore contributing to solving the problem of spaghetti code. That means we don't have to write a lot of unnecessary code. With the use of frameworks, we're able to shorten the codes that we write and avoid spaghetti code. So they give developers and teams a consistent way of building front-end applications. Some common front-end some common JavaScript frameworks are Angular, React, Vue.js, and Svelte.js. And today we'll be talking about React.js in particular. Introduction to React.js. So what is React.js? React.js is a JavaScript library developed by Facebook for building user interfaces. It allows developers to create interactive and dynamic web applications by breaking down the UI into reusable components. Why React.js? Number one, it is a components-based architecture. React utilizes a components-based architecture where UIs are broken down into reusable and modular components. This promotes code reusability, scalability, and easier maintenance. Developers can efficiently manage complex UIs by composing smaller self-contained components. So what this means is that basically what React does is that React allows developers to, in their UI, they're able to break down their UI into smaller components, such as the nav bar, the logo. So those components are broken down into smaller pieces of code. Then they are all assembled together inside the final web application, thereby making it easier for developers to reuse such components. For example, most websites, you have maybe in a website that has multiple pages, and obviously the footer remains the same across all the pages. So instead of developing, like writing code for a footer 5 times, you can just create a footer component and just place that component in each of the pages without needing to rewrite the code of that footer 4 or 5 different times. That is an example of React having a components-based architecture. The next thing is better state management. It reacts to state changes by re-rendering the UI. React does a good job at keeping the user interface in sync with the state of the application. So normally in applications, when we want our application to be able to react to clicks, we want it to be able to react to changes in our UI. Maybe as a user interacts with our application, we need some things to be changing, things to be moving around. And so it's really hard. That is called state management. It's really hard to achieve that with just vanilla JavaScript. But with React.js, we're able to maintain that user interface and state management. So we're able to keep everything in track and make it move smoothly. That's another use of React.js. Another benefit is the large ecosystem and community support. React has a vast ecosystem of libraries and tools and resources that enhance development, productivity, and extend its capabilities. As we all know, React.js is developed by Facebook, and Facebook is a very large company. So we can always expect React to be updated in the years to come. And so it has a very large ecosystem and community support. And that's very important when choosing a framework to work on, because With a large ecosystem and community support, if you're running into bugs and challenges, you have a vast number of developers that are already into React that can help you out with tools and resources. So that is another benefit of using React.js over other frameworks. So Covalent and React.js. The Covalent network provides long-term data availability, providing developers unfettered access to historical blockchain data. To implement this, Covalent has two products, which are number one, the Gold Rush Kit, and number two, the Unified API. So let's go into the coding session. So as I said, I didn't want the talk to be too long, so I just wanted to school. So I want everyone to create a folder. And in that folder, everyone should just open that folder with their VS Code. We're going to be using the VS Code editor for this workshop. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to scaffold a brand new React.js project. And there are two ways of scaffolding a React.js application. The first way is by using Create React App. But Create React App is a bit slow. That was the first way of scaffolding a React.js application. But recently, there's been a new tool that has come into place, which is Vite. Vite is used for front-end tooling and front-end scaffolding. So in order to get, so you can go to the Vite website you can scaffold for Svelte.js, Next.js, also Vue.js. So we're going to be scaffolding for React. And in order to do that, you open your terminal and you write npx create it at latest. Then you put this dot here. Then okay. So it's npm create it at latest. Okay, so enter. So you can see we are supposed to select a framework. So we are going to be selecting React. I don't know if you guys can see my screen. So then select JavaScript. So you can see on our left-hand side, we can see that all our necessary files and folders have been created. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing npm install to install our dependencies and node modules. So that will take a while. So first, okay, we'll do that later. All right. So everything has been set up. So the next thing we need to do is that we're going to run it in our local server, which is we're going to use npm run dev. I hope everybody can see my screen. So you run npm run dev. Then it's going to open, then you open this link. So you can see our application here. So this is just the basic starter application. We're going to clear this and start ours. So the next thing you're going to do is that you're going to go into the source folder, then go into the app.jsx folder. Are we following? Can somebody say something? Make sure that we are following. Jackie, are you still there?
Yep, I can see.
All right. So next we're going to clear everything here. Just go to app.jsx, then you clear everything. So we're going to write export default app. Export defaults and the function. Sorry. We're going to be exporting this function. So this app is our components. The app is our component that we're going to return. So what React uses, it does not use HTML. It uses a syntax called JSX, which is like syntactic sugar. So JSX is a mixture of HTML and JavaScript. Instead of creating a separate, normally in vanilla JavaScript, you need to create a separate script.js file when developing. But here you can combine your HTML and your JavaScript in a syntax called JSX. So I'm going to be returning a div here. So div is a HTML element. So let's say welcome to the React Covalent shop. So if we save that and we come here, you can see that our server is already reacting to it. So it's updated, but we can see some like default styling. So we need to remove that. So if we go to our app.css here, I want you to clear everything there. Then in your also in your index.css, just clear those default styles that are there so that we can just have this blank. So you can just have this blank page right here. So after doing this, the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to go to covalent. Sorry. Okay. So basically what covalent does is that covalent helps us to get access to historic data in the blockchain. So we can, with covalence, we can query any type of data that we need, such as transactions, NFT transactions, wallet addresses, etc., block data, and so on. So that's what covalent does. And covalent does that with Gold Rush Kit. Gold Rush Kit is one of covalence tools where it has pre-designed React components that we can use in our front-end application. So if we go to, so all we just need to do is that we just need to go to Covalent's website here, which is covalenthq.com. And under products, you can go to Gold Rush and you're presented with this page. Then you can go to get started. So the first thing we need to do is that we need to install the dependency. So we're going to be using the npm. We're going to use npm install as covalent hq slash gold rush kit. So you can open a new terminal here and just paste that in. So this is the only way that we can access the components in gold rush kit. So briefly, let me talk about the component structure I mentioned about React. So as I was saying, I said that React enables us to break our coding, our application into small chunks of components. So for example, in this our source directory, we can create a new file. Let's call it header.jsx. So the file extension, we're going to be using .jsx to show that it is a JSX or React file that we're creating. It's a React component. So in this header.jsx, so there's this snippet that we can use RFCE to create a functional component for us. So we have this header here. We can just write Brilliance workshop. So this header now, this header maybe wants it to appear in different places in our web application. Instead of having in our app.js, instead of coming here and saying H1, covalence workshop, they're still coming down again. Maybe on our part where we need that same text, we just write covalence workshop. Instead of writing this in multiple places, we can just create the components here, maybe as a H1, that's a header. So we have this component called header. So we can just come right here and we can just call that component as we would, as it's the same thing as writing a self-closing tag in HTML. So we write the name of the component like this. So this is the header. Then we need to import it above on top of our file. So we write import we're importing header from dot slash then we navigate to where it is. So if we now go back to our application, you can see that our header is appearing here. And if we need this header in multiple places, we can just copy this wherever we want. You can just copy it like this. Then you can see that it appears multiple times. So it's better than writing it multiple times. And it might look like it's just a H1. We can actually write this H1 multiple times. But assuming you have components that are a bit longer and have more complex logic, it makes more sense to break them into small components so that you can reuse them, and which I find more efficient in web applications in order to optimize for speed and efficiency. So our covalent dependency has been installed. So the next thing we are going to do is that we get started. So we have the documentation which shows how to use the Gold Rush. So first of all, we have the Gold Rush provider, which is a component that we are going to be using. Then we have, so you can read through the docs to see the different components. So the Gold Rush provider is a required component wrapper to configure Gold Rush theme and the API key. The Gold Rush provider wraps around the application to configure Gold Rush components, such as color, theme, and mode can be added to change how the components look on our application. So this is the basic usage of it. So before we can make use of the Gold Rush components, it has to be wrapped within this Gold Rush provider. So if you go back to our app, you can just clear this, then we paste this in. So we need to import this. So we have imported this up here. Provider. Then we need to have our API key in order to use this. So we can get your API key from okay. So that's I've gotten my API key. So ideally, you're supposed to put your API key in a .env file, but I don't want to overcomplicate the presentation, so I'm just going to leave it here. I'll change it later. So, okay, why are we still having? Okay, so we have our Gold Rush provider. So any component we are going to be using has to be between this Gold Rush provider. So here in the Gold Rush provider, we have this API key, mode, and color are known as attributes or props. So these props help us to configure the components which we are passing them into. And in this case, the components is the Gold Rush provider. So the configuration for this Gold Rush provider is the API key, the mode, and the color. So we are going to be setting those. So we've set our mode as dark. Actually, let's set it as light. Let's set it as light. Then color emerald. So now let's take a look at the components that we have. So we can see the different configurations. For theme, we can choose between classic and neo. For mode, we can choose between dark and light. For border, we can also have border radius. We can have color. So the first component that we have is the token balances list view, and this is how it's supposed to appear. So the usage. So this interface, so you can just read about them. This interface provides a snapshot of an individual's or organization's token assets, commonly used for portfolio tracking and financial analysis, displaying token logos, chain and token names, quote rates, balance, and view quotes with sortable columns. It features data delta values for recent balance changes. Users can also see sum total quotes for the entire wallet, offering a complete financial overview based on a single wallet's address input. So for the usage of this, we have the token balances list view components, which we are going to highlight like this. Then we go back to so just between our Gold Rush provider components, we're going to paste this in, but we have to import it. So we can just import it. So React does that for us with with their snippets. So in order for you to get the React snippets, to make coding React easier, you go to your extensions tab in your go to your extensions tab in your VS Code. You download this extension called ES7 Plus React Redux React Native Snippets. So this help you to code faster in React. So in this token balances list view, we have props. We have another set of props again. The first prop that we have in this component is the chain names props. This chain names receives an array of the different chains that we want to appear in our components. And from what we have here, we have Ethereum mainnet, Matic mainnet, BSC, Avalanche, and Optimism. Those are the chains that we want to appear or filter for in our components. There are hiding small balances, then the address. So the address of this is the address that we're going to be querying to get the data of the token balances. So if we save this and we go back to our server, we can see this, but we can see that it's not styled. It's not properly styled. So in order for you to get this, in order for you to make it styled properly, we need to go to their GitHub. I'm coming. So if you go to the GitHub repo, this is how we import the CSS for the Go Rush kit. You see that step number 4, add the style sheet to your application. So if we copy this and we go back up, we're going to put it right here under our imports. Then when we save this and go back to our browser, everything should be working accordingly. So this is the stylized version of it. So here we can see the wallets that we are querying. We can copy it. We can also scan it. Then we can see the total quotes of 75 tokens that are worth about $15,000. Then we can see the different tokens that are in this address, along with the quote rates, the balance, the quote, and the delta. And we can view the transfer history. So this is one of the components that we have in GoRush Kits. So let's look at the other components that which we have. So before we do that, I want to show us how we can react to, I want to make this a little bit more dynamic for us in such a way that we can manually type in the address that we want so that it can be fetched. So what we can do, or let's do that a bit later. Let's look at the other components which Rush Kit offers to us. So these are the different props, as I mentioned, the chain name, the address, then optional properties, which are max balances, hide small balances, and on transfer click. Then we have the NFT wallet token list view. These components to display and render NFTs in your wallet. A curated display designed for NFT collectors and traders to manage and visualize their NFT holdings tied to a specific wallet address. The gallery sorts NFTs by collection name, complemented by clear images and essential identifiers such as token IDs and real-time asset values, with functionality to sort and feature to compute the total portfolio value. This component aids in effective portfolio management and decision planning. So basically, what this component does is that it's able to query the NFTs that are associated with a particular wallet address and display them in a manner which by just looking at it, you're able to see the image, you're able to see the basic data pertaining to that NFT. So that way, NFT holders can have a clear view of their holdings to their wallets. So you can see in this picture, this is how it looks like. You can see the different NFTs with their values and their names and their IDs. So that's the use of this particular component. So this is how we can use this particular component. So we can just copy this out. So the required properties for this component is the chain names and the address. So if you check this out, sorry. So if you check this out, so let's just comment. We can comment this first component out and use this second one here. So we save this, then we have to import this inside. So we have our address, then the chain names. This particular one does not have hide small balances. It's just the chain names and the address that's going to be queried. So if we save this and we go back to our browser, we can see the NFTs that are pertaining to this particular wallet. So you can scroll down and check, and you can also see the chain to which the NFT was bought. So this one was bought on the Ethereum mainnet. This one is on Polygon. And so with this, an NFT holder can just have an overview of all his assets on chain. So I hope that we're understanding. So from this, we can see the total quotes. That means this wallet has a total of $8,500 worth of NFTs and has 153 NFTs. So that's the use of this particular component. So the other components that we have the address activity list view, an optimized experience to render a wallet activity across chains. So designed for a multifaceted view of wallet activity, this interface reveals the chains a wallet is active on, complete with icons for each blockchain, sourced by chain name, last active, or mainnet status to quickly gauge the wallet's interactions and footprints across the diverse blockchain landscape. So basically, this component is used to track the activity of a particular wallet charges on the different chains that are specified, from the most recently active to the least recently active. So the usage, the only prop, the props that the only required property of this component is the address property. Then we have some optional properties such as the get all rule selection, get rule selection state, and rule selection state. Sorry. Um, yeah, so let's try and use this. So if we copy this and check it, so we can comment this out, and try this component out. So we need to import it first. So we check it out. So we can see. So based on this wallet address, we can see that it is active on 14 mainnet chains and active on 10 testnet chains available. So we can see for Ethereum mainnet, it was active 2 days ago. On the Polygon mainnet, it was active a day ago. BNB was active 1 month ago, Avalanche 1 year ago, and so on. So we can see that the KCC testnet, he was active on that blockchain 3 years ago. So this is what this component does. It enables one to check how active they are on the different blockchains that they use from time to time. So that is the use of this particular component by Covalence Gold Rush Kit. So let's check the other one. So the last component, but not the least, is the token transfers list view, which is a component to render the historical transfers of a token in your wallet. So this has the time from and to. So it basically shows the data of tokens transferred with the particular wallet address. So it's transferred from who to who, whether then it's in or out, the amount, the quote, and the transaction hash for that particular transaction. And it's grouped within 30 days earlier and so on. So it's ideal for monitoring and auditing token activity. This interface provides a detailed ledger of token transfers associated with a particular wallet address. It includes paginated and sortable columns for time, token transfer volume, and fights currency variations. Detailed transfer information such as from and to addresses, transfer directionality, and transaction hashes enable users to conduct thorough analysis and maintain accurate records. So the usage, so this is the basic usage, and the required properties for these components is the chain name, the address, and the contract address. So we're going to use this. So we're going to copy this. Let's comment this out. So if you save this and we check, so this is how it appears. So we can see the address here. We can see the network and the token, which is USDC. So we can see a year ago, USDC was transferred from this account to this account, and it was transferred out. Then the amount was 100 USDC, which is $100, and this is the transaction hash. And if we click on that transaction hash, it takes us to Etherscan, where we can view details about that particular transaction. So for those that don't know, Etherscan is a way for people to track transactions, to see whether they have been the status of a transaction, the block, the timestamp, and see other details about that particular transaction. It's the same thing such as Voyager, and we have Voyager and StackScan. Those are also block explorer tools where we can view and verify transactions. So this is it. So we can, so I can see that it's paginated. So we can go to the next, it loads. And so we can see how we can create data from 4 5 years ago. Look at this, is 4 years ago. So that's what Covalent does. Covalent helps us to be able to create data from as long ago as we need to. So that's why we say Covalent helps us to access historical data on the blockchain that normally it will be very hard for us to access, but Covalent provides tools such as their unified API and Gold Rush key to enable us to access such data as much as we need. So that's it. So the topic of this presentation is reactivity. So I want us to do a quick exercise, a quick but simple application. And for this application, we're going to be using the NFTs, the NFT token list view component. Let me clear up our application a bit. Let me okay. So we're going to be doing, so basically what I want us to be able to do is that I want us to be able to have an input field where we can type in a particular address that we want to query for, instead of, so that provides a better user experience, because right now any user interacting with this application can only view data for this particular wallet. But what if there's a way that we can provide an input field where the user can type in a particular wallet address that he wants to query from, then the data is fetched and represented in this particular component. So that's what we're going to be able to do. So the first thing we need to do is that we need to create an input field. So let's create a div here. So divs are semantic tags in HTML that help us to provide a proper layout for our application. So in this div, we're going to have a label. The label is for wallets, or let's call it address. So enter your wallet address. So enter a wallet address. Then we have an input field. So this is going to be text. Then we have this gives an ID of address and the name of address also. So we go to our application. We can see our So we can see. So let's let's use Tailwind. We need to our application is not really styled in a proper way, so we need to use Tailwind to style our application. So Tailwind is a popular CSS framework used to style front-end applications. So you can go to their website in order to style, and we're going to be going to framework guides. So it provides a way for us, since we use Vite to scaffold our application. We're going to be using the Vite framework guide. So this is the guide to setting up Tailwind or Vite application. So we've already done these first two steps. So the next step is to do this. We'll just do that quickly. Mm. 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 Mhm. Mm. Okay, so Tailwind is already set up. So what Tailwind does is that Tailwind provides us with a set of classes that have specific styles attributed to them. Instead of us using style sheets, we can have classes we can have classes attached to certain elements in our application that can be stylized. So for example, what I want us to do is that in our main application, we can see that in our application we have our application too close to the edges. We want like a bit of a padding on the left and right, and also on the top. So we can have a padding X of 24 pixels and a padding Y of, let's say, let's say 16 pixels. If you go back and check it, it's not working. Mm, coming. So our styles are not working. Let me check our setup. Okay. So we have this next. Okay, let's restart our server and see what happens. Okay. Okay, yeah. So we can see that the paddings have been initialized. So let's style our header. So we can go to our header. So what I did was to add paddings. So we just write class name. Class name is a prop that can be attached to any elements or JSX elements that we use. And we apply certain classes available on Tailwind. So PX is padding is a class used for padding on the x-axis, that is on the left and right. PY is used for padding on the top and bottom. So those are the classes that we use in order to have these paddings in our application. So in the header, for this H1, let's put a class name. Let's increase the font size. So we have text. Let's say 24 pixels, and we want it to have a font width of 500. So let's see how that looks. So let's increase this. Let's make it. uh, Let's make it like up to 40 if we can. So this that is bringing out, this is called Tailwind Intelligence. So it's also an extension that we can install that can help you. So Tailwind CSS Intelligence. it helps you to recommend certain classes for you to use instead of typing it all out. So you can just install this in order to use it. So we have this font, so let's check it out. So this is it. I think this is okay. We can make this font bold. Yeah, I think this is better. Then we need space at the bottom. So we can have margin bottom, and we can give this a margin bottom of 28 pixels. So that's way better. So now the next thing we need to do, we need to style our input field. Like our input field does not even have a border, so we can't really know an input field is right there. So and it's side by side. We want it to appear like as a column, the label on top of the input field. So what we can do is that in our div here, we can give it a class name of flex. Then we change the flex direction to column. So that puts it one under each other. So we can see it's now under each other. Then we don't want it too close to each other. So we need to give it a gap. So we have a gap Y. So this is a gap on the x-axis. Let's give it a gap of 12 pixels. So that's okay. Then we need to give it a margin bottom. So margin bottom is for under the input field. We need to give it a margin under the input field. Let's give it a margin bottom of 20. Yes. So this is it. So then we need to stylize the input field because there's no border. We still can't see the input field. So we need to give it a border. So in the input field, we're going to give it a class. Let's give it a border of 1 pixel. Then let's give it a border color of C4. We're going to use the hex version, C4. Right? Yes, C4. That is like ash. Then we're going to make it border solid. So then, okay, see, like, so we have this, but it's too small. So we need to give it a padding. Let's give it a padding of 12 pixels and see how that is. So this is way better, but the edges are too sharp. So we can give it a border radius here. So we have rounded of, let's say 4 pixels should be okay. So yeah, so this is how our application is looking right now. It's not all that great, but at least you guys can tweak it up as much as you want going forward, but so that we don't run out of time. So let's continue. So we need a button to say query or something. So let's have a button here. Let's just write it. Let's write fetch or query or fetch. Let's write fetch. Save this. So we have this button here. So let's give it a padding of let's give it a padding of 2 and padding of 3. Then we have mx auto. What mx auto does is that it puts it at the center. Let's give it a background. This color. So we have this. Then let's change the color to white. So we have text white. And let's give it rounded corners. So rounded. So we have this. Let's give it a width of like 150 pixels. Okay, so this is what we have so far. So I hope we are following and I hope we are understanding. So the next thing we need to do is that we need to make this functional. So we're really ready with everything. So we need to add some logic to the website, to the web application. So what we need to do is that we need to first make this input field a controlled element. So in reality, there are things called controlled elements, and controlled elements are basically input fields where we want to connect our input field to our React application, in which React controls how controls how input is being made and how it is like want the state of this input field to be controlled by React.js. So that's what we are going to be doing. That's how we're going to be turning it. That's how we're going to, so that's how we are going to make this functional. So one way to make this a controlled element is that just above our return elements, we're going to be using a state variable. You know how I said how React manages our states, gives us state management to keep our states in sync with our user interface. So in order to create a state application, a state variable, we're going to be using the use state hook. So React has these hooks that are used in React development, which help us. So you have different sets of hooks that help for different sets of things, but basically they help with state management. And the most common and easy hook to know is the use state hook. So we have const. So let's call this address. It's going to be an array, then set address. Set address. So equal to use state. So what this is that, so what use state returns two things. It returns our state and it also returns a state changing function. So the state right now is address and the state changing function is set address. And so we are destructuring it here. And this inside this bracket is our initial state. So the initially is going to be an empty string, but actually we're going to use this. We already have an address given to us by Brilliance. So we're going to use this as our initial address. No, let's have two. Let's have two. We're going to have two state variables. So we first have query data, then we have set query data. So we have set query data, and that's equal to. So query data is going to be the data that is being like it's going to be the address in which the component is fetching the data from. I don't know if that makes sense. So that's why we're going to be using the default address given to us by Covalent here. Then initially, then this address is going to be our input value. And initially it's going to be empty because we have not typed anything into it. So in our input field, there's going to be another prop here. And it's going to be called value. And the value we're going to be using is address. And we're going to have an unchanged prop. So what unchanged does is that it's a function that is being called whenever input is being added or removed in the input field. That's what the unchanged. So unchanged receives a function. So in that function, we are going to be passing in E. So E is the event object of every HTML element. So in this E, we are going to have, so what we're going to do, we're going to say we're going to be setting the address, setting address to e.target.value. What e.target.value means is that whatever is being, after imputing or deleting, whatever is in the input field is going to be, address is going to be set to that particular element. So let me explain this. So currently now our address, what did we say? Our address is set at empty. But if we type y, we have initialized the unchanged function. So our address now has been changed to y. So this y is now e.target the value. If we change it again and add maybe another letter like q, then our new address is going to be yq, which is e.target the value. So that is basically what it is. So that's basically what happens every time that we change the value of the input field. So if we save this, so the next thing that we are going to do, okay, in order for you to know that like this is changing, let me write something. Let me just create a simple p tag here. For us, so I said that we can use This unchanged is a simple way of showing how we can use JavaScript and React and HTML in JSX. So whenever we want to use a value, a JavaScript value inside our JSX, we're going to put it within curly braces like this. And within this curly braces, we're going to be writing address here. So you can see that it's already here, just above our input field. So anytime we change this, this is going to update. So if you write 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see how it's being updated at the same time. So this is how I say that React helps us to keep our state and our user interface in sync at all times. So and anytime it changes, React automatically re-renders the page, so that it can be in sync with the UI. The state can be in sync with the UI. So if I clear this, you can see everything has cleared. So that's how you can know that. So automatically now, we've made this our input field a controlled element in React.js. So we can clear this P for now. So the next thing we're going to be doing is that um so so we want to create an or click function for this button. So whenever we want to fetch, whenever somebody clicks on fetch, we are going to, first of all, we need to create a function. This function is going to be used, this is the function that is going to be triggered whenever we click on that fetch. So let's say function fetch, let's say fetch NFT. So this is it. So we come to our button, then we have this on click prop, which is triggered whenever a user clicks on this particular function. So we can just write fetch NFT. Like so. So whenever the user clicks on this fetch function, it triggers this fetch NFT function right here. So this is the fetch NFT function. So what are the things that are going to happen? The first thing that is going to happen is that we're going to update this query data. Query data is going to be updated. So, but we need to have some guard clauses. Guard clauses are, so when creating this type of function, we need to come up with possible hypotheses. It's possible for somebody to just click on this fetch button without imputing any address. So we need to guard against that. Another thing is that maybe, I think that's the most common and most simple one that we can implement. Let's implement that first. So what we can say is that we have an if function. So an if statement. If the address, if address dot length, that's the length of the address, is not, what was good? Yeah, is not if the address is equal to 0, we want to return. So if the address, the length of the address is 0, we are going to return. That means nothing under this return is going to be run. But if it's not equal to 0, that means it is greater than 0, then every other thing under is going to be achieved. So what we are going to do is that we're going to set query data, and we're going to set it to the address currently in the input field. So this is what is going to happen. So this is basically everything. So we can test this out. So if we go back here in our NFT components, in this address, we can change this from this, and we can just write query data. So it's query data that is going to be used. So this makes it dynamic for users to be able to type in the address that they want to query. So if you go here, I can't, so let me see how, okay, I don't have any other address, but let me show you that this works. Assuming that there was no query data, it's like there's nothing that is found. So if you want to type in an address now, if we paste this in and we click on fetch, you can see how automatically the UI has been updated. So if we have any other address now, we can now search for that particular, you can now search for the NFTs pertaining to that particular address. So I hope we understand how React now makes this easy, so that it makes it reactive to our users' inputs in the application. So the user can maybe check for anybody's, can just go see an address online, can come to this application and query it and fetch and see the total quote of the NFTs pertaining to that particular wallet. You can see more details about the NFTs, like you can see the estimated value, the ID, and so on. So you can just, from this simple application, you can imagine the number of products that we can make using this particular tool and Gold Rush Kit. We can even expand this application in such a way that we can have multiple pages for the different components that Gold Rush Kit offers, with similar input fields where they can choose the chain names that they want to query for. They can type in the address, they can type in the smart contract address, and so on. So this makes it easier for people. So you can see how front end is very important in using tools such as Covalence Gold Rush Kits. Apart from that, we can also use React.js to use their unified API and SDK. So basically that's what we can do. So we just React.js, we can build this simple application that can be used for, you can build similar applications where we can utilize Gold Rush Kits and stylize it in such a way that we can push it out to the public, and the public can be able to use it to query any data that they want, and it can come out in a very beautiful way. So I hope we're able to understand and follow from what we have been able to do so far. So that's everything so far. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. So, okay. Jackie, are you still here? Hello? Um, is anybody still here? I'm trying to get, okay. So I think it's time for questions. Mm, So does anybody have any question? Let me check. Mm, okay, so let me open the chat. Okay. So who has any question? Okay. So if you have any question, just type it out on the group chat, on the chat. Mm, So it seems like there are no questions. So I want to thank everybody for
Hi,
coming.
hello.
Hi, hello.
Yeah, I do have a question, but I really want to thank you for doing this because I learned a lot today.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thanks for everyone joining. Shout out to Jackie and the Covalent team for enabling me to do this workshop for you guys. Okay. Vivato say he wants to watch the recording. Okay, no problem. You can watch the recording, then you can just text me privately, then I can answer any questions that you might need. So I'm always open for any DM. So shout out to Jackie and the Covalent team for enabling me to do this workshop. Also, shout out to my wife for joining this meeting today. Mavi, thanks for joining. So yeah, that's it. So the meeting is going to be ending now. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.